Hey everyone, thanks for tuning into today's video. We're going to do a long-range look ahead today because it's JMA Friday. Of course, every Friday we have a look at the weather for the coming month from a Japanese model. So we'll be doing that today. About Good Friday, the model is still updated. So we'll be able to see what it's showing for the coming month. We'll also have a look at the CFSP2 as well. So a bit of a long-range look ahead, but before I get on with that, just to say about the ads, there's links to articles on all of the pages at gazwebbiz.com. Have a browse through the widgets, and if there's any articles that you're interested in, please click through. You'll be able to go off and read those articles, and thanks very much for doing that. I'm trying out some new video ads on some of the pages as well. So when you hit on the page, the video will just emerge amongst the content, usually amongst the written content. You can watch the video, or you can just skip it and go off and just carry on reading the content. So it's up to you, really. But it's paying for the website, so if you could watch the ad, it will help gazwebbiz.com. It's not on every page at the moment, just trying it out on a few of the pages, so see what you think. And thanks very much for doing that. Right, it's Good Friday, so let's get on with JMA Friday and see what it's showing this week. We've got 500 millibar heights broken down into weekly periods. The first weekly period will be for the week that we're currently in, taking us from the 3rd to the 10th of April. As you know, blue is extrapolating to high pressure. No, it's not. Blue is extrapolating to low pressure, and red and orange and yellow is extrapolating to high pressure. I've only been doing this for 3 years, so you have to forgive me, but I'm still getting this a bit wrong. Right, so we've got the area of above average height, it's a high pressure orange colour, sitting right over the top of the UK for the coming week. A trough of low pressure into the northeast United States, but jet stream is going like that. So that's a pretty decent looking anomaly chart actually for the coming week. High pressure is going to be pretty well in control, sitting more or less over top of the country. It does promise quite a bit of spring-like weather. There'll be some decent sunshine coming through, and temperatures should be getting a bit of a boost as well. It could be chilly by night, of course, under high pressure, but by day the sun is strong enough to lift those temperatures probably up in towards the mid-teens Celsius. And this is all going to begin over the Easter weekend, actually. It's starting off a bit dodgy today, but things will be improving through the course of the weekend, and that's likely to carry on then into next week. So that's a pretty good representation of next week's weather. Now, we go through to the second week period. This will go from the 10th to the 17th of April, and what we find for this one is that the ridge sort of goes to the east of the country, so it's up over Scandinavia and stretched down into central parts of Europe as well. The trough of low pressure is in the central part of the Atlantic. The jet stream is going like that. So that's high pressure still pretty well in control through the course of the middle part of April, the 10th to the 17th. And the orientation of the low pressure in the Atlantic and the high pressure of the east could bring some really quite warm weather up from the south, actually, on that one. You would expect winds to be going sort of southerly there on that setup. So, yeah, I could see temperatures really getting a boost through the middle part of April. I did the April month ahead forecast yesterday, and it sort of suggested near normal temperatures, but if this is right, we could see some really quite warm weather coming up through the middle part of the month. And then go through to the final 2 week period. This takes from the 17th of April to the 1st of May, so up to the first day of next month. And the trough in the Atlantic gets a little bit more influential when it starts to push closer towards us. And the above average heights to the east are sort of lowering. So I think what's going on here, although we probably start off in the same sort of setup with high pressure to the east, low pressure to west, over time I would suspect that high pressure to the east is sort of eroded, and the low pressure in the Atlantic starts to push in, and the high pressure sort of slips away to the south. So it probably through the second half of April, remember this is from the 17th of April to the 1st of May, through that period it's probably turning more unsettled. So it's a transitional period. This was showing up yesterday in the April month ahead forecast. So get through to the final sort of week to 10 days, it could turn a good deal more unsettled through that period. And I think we're probably seeing hints of that on the on the JMA. Because it's a 2-weekly anomaly, it is taking into account that it's starting off very settled, but turning more unsettled through the period. So, yeah, I think the JMA is sort of hinting at that idea. The CFS V2 is very similar. This is the 500 millibar height anomaly for the coming week. This takes us from the 2nd to the 8th of April. Again, same idea. Blue is low pressure, red is high pressure. So for the first weekly period, going from the 2nd to the 8th of April, we've got this ridge building in across the country. The trough of low pressure is slipping away to the southeast, so the flow is going sort of something like that. So high pressure is building in really through the coming week, very similar to what we saw on the JMA. As you go through to the second week period, going from the 9th to the 15th, high pressure is right in there over the top of the country. So good agreement there between the JMA and the CFS for above average heights high pressure to be dominated. The low pressure is out in the central part of the Atlantic. The jet stream is going something like that. So on the mild side of the jet and run to a ridge, it's going to be very pleasant up to the middle part of the month if that one comes off. And then we go through to the next week period, go from the 16th to the 22nd of April. Above average height still in control, but notice they're beginning to move more towards the south as this trough of low pressure in the Atlantic starts to become more influential. So the winds are going back in towards the west, really on that setup, with the high pressure beginning to decline down to the south, but still mainly under high pressure conditions. But then we go through to the final weekly period, going from the 23rd of April to the 29th of the month. And look at this, it's a complete change around. The high pressure goes up to the north of Scandinavia, the above average heights, hitting up some northern blocking. And a trough of low pressure is running through the Atlantic and through the UK. So again, it's this idea that we go through to the final sort of week to 10 days of April, it turns much more unsettled, and the jet stream is going south with that as well. So we're on the cool side of the jet there, and low pressure coming in off the Atlantic, becoming centre, probably across central parts of Europe. This will probably have the effect of pulling the winds into the northeast, so it could turn a lot colder through the final week to 10 days of April after a lot of dry and fairly warm weather through much of the month. That final week to 10 days could turn much more unsettled and a good deal colder as well. So we'd probably be talking about some very late season night frost, possibly even some wintry conditions over northern high ground. Some sleet or snow couldn't be ruled out on that sort of setup. So quite a dramatic April being indicated here. The temperature anomalies for the coming month, so this is for the 2nd to the 8th of April as the high pressure is building in, shows that sort of near normal. We're starting off quite cool, but temperatures should get a bit of a boost as we go through the period. High pressure is in control from the 9th to the 15th of April, so the temperature anomaly is going warmer than average. Very pleasant week coming up to the middle of the month, and that carries on into the next week, going from the 16th to the 17th. Remember, this is prepared where that high pressure is beginning to get eroded, but it's still more or less in control, so the temperature anomaly is still coming out sort of warmer than average. But then we go through to that last week, going from the 23rd to the 29th of April, and it's this idea that it's turning colder as the high pressure slips away, the low pressure comes in, the temperature anomalies are going below average. So we're talking about a couple of degrees below average potentially there, so turning significantly cooler than average in the final week of the month, as is most of Central Europe as well. The precipitation anomalies stack up like this, near normal across much of the country through the coming week, although drier out to west, and those dry conditions are extending in with the high pressure. Going through to the next week, actually quite interesting. You would think this would be a very dry week. Actually, the anomaly is only sort of near normal. So it does imply that even though the above average heights are building in from the 9th to the 15th of April, there's still some sort of precipitation coming through. I would would expect that to be a bit drier than that. And then it's near normal precipitation anomalies again as we go through to the 16th to the 22nd, and then finally it's near normal again through the 23rd to the 29th, but I expect that to be a wetter period. So I'm not quite sure about those precipitation anomalies. I'd expect the middle 2 weeks of the month to be really quite dry, and then a much wetter week for the final week of the month. So I'm not sure about those. Finally, having a look at the CFS monthly anomalies for the next 3 months from the website weatherweb.net. If I'm linked to WebWeb on my links page, this is how April is stacking up. The idea is that we've got an area of above average heights sitting to the north, but trough is down to the southwest and to the northeast. I think overall we would see things turning more unsettled as we get through to the latter stages of the month on this area. But trough will gradually decline away and allow this trough to sort of move up from the southwest. As we go through to May, this is how May is stacking up. Quite an unsettled month. High pressure out to the west, low pressure up to the northeast. May has always looked a bit dodgy, really, on most of the models that I've been looking at over the past few weeks. So that continues the idea of a fairly unsettled and quite cool May coming through. But then we get to June, and this is quite interesting. We've got above average heights there over Scandinavia. They extend to the Azores high, so big area of high pressure sort of building in there for June. That would be very pleasant month, quite a warm month on that one. A lot of dry weather with those high pressures building in. When the high pressure in summer builds from the Azores to the Scandinavian high, that can be one of the signals that you're in for quite a good summer. So these change day by day, so let's not get too carried away. But I thought I'd just throw that in because it's quite an interesting one for June. If it did come off like that, it would imply quite a dry and maybe quite a hot month for June. But anyway, let's come back to the nearer time frame. And for April, we're also going to have a lot of dry weather through the first half of the month, actually with the high pressure building in. Very pleasant conditions, but it's still that idea. But as we go through to the final week to 10 days or so, things could turn much more unsettled and colder as well. So you'll have to watch this space. If it does turn significantly colder through the final week or so of April, that could have quite a big impact on the fruit blossom and on the gardens and the fields with the farmers putting out the vegetables. So it could have quite a big impact actually if this comes off through the final week or so of the month. Okay, so watch this space. That's it for now. Weekend forecast tomorrow, so come back for that. Enjoy what's left of your Good Friday, and that's all for now. Thanks for watching.